This is Straight No Chaser Talk Radio. We're just getting started. Straight No Chaser Talk Radio.
He's drinking that with no chaser.
This is Straight No Chaser Talk Radio. We're just getting started. Straight No Chaser Talk Radio.
He's drinking that with no chaser.
This is Straight No Chaser Talk Radio. We're just getting started. Straight No Chaser Talk Radio.
He's drinking that with no chaser.
Good evening, and welcome to Straight No Chaser, where we never dilute the issues, we only serve the hard stuff. Well, tonight we are again talking about this whole protesting situation surrounding the untimely and brutal execution of George Floyd in Minneapolis. As many of you know, there have been protests not only in the United States but around the world, with citizens just outraged at what they saw on the videotape of Mr. George Floyd's execution. And for those of you who may be living under a rock that did not see it, Mr. Floyd was detained by Minneapolis police, the Minneapolis Police Department, on an allegation of a forged $20 bill. And during that encounter, he ends up on the ground with 4 officers on top of him, with one officer in particular with his knee in his neck. And throughout the 8-minute and 46-second confrontation, you can hear Mr. Floyd begging for his life, telling the officer, I can't breathe, please, officer, I can't breathe. And finally, before he took his last breath, he called out for his dead mother. And of course, that was literally the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. After the video went viral, it set off protests around the country, demands for action, demands for police reform, and just was an awakening for many people that some of the concerns expressed by the African American community were indeed a reality. Now, we have to point out, as we've been saying all along, that the officers, those 4 officers, of course, do not reflect properly on the thousands of officers that are patrolling and serving communities throughout America every day and who are trying to make a difference. And it's unfortunate that this occurred, because now you have agencies across the country considering defunding or eliminating police departments, and just a host of other reforms and other things that are occurring as a result of this. So tonight, to help us kind of talk about this whole situation, particularly around whether or not we want to have police departments or defund them or eliminate them, and all those types of things, we have Mr. Bob Ross, who is the president of the Prince George's County, Maryland chapter of the NAACP. And welcome to the show, Mr. Ross.
Good evening, Mike. How's it been going?
Great, and it's great to have you here on the show, and we thank you so much for coming, and certainly, sir, we look forward to having your insight and sharing with us some of your thoughts. And we also have a great friend of the show, and we call him a medical legend. And so we have with us tonight Dr. Eugene Albright from Riverside, California. Welcome, Dr. Albright, to the show again.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it, and always willing to lend a helping hand.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And as always, we're so happy to have you on to just kind of keep us focused on keeping ourselves healthy, particularly in this COVID-19 environment. So I'm going to get right into it, Mr. Ross and Doc, because, you know, I've been watching the protests that have been going on, and I'm sure just like millions of people across the country who have been watching and seeing the protests, and not just of African Americans in the crowd. We've seen many races, blacks, whites, Jews, Gentiles, straight, gay. I mean, it's just been a real melting pot of protesters who have seen the video and they were outraged. And so now they have decided to exercise their right to protest, and they have been protesting. In every state in the country, there have been protests going on for this terrible, terrible tragedy. And so from the NAACP's perspective, what were your thoughts when you saw all the protesting happening, President Ross?
Well, it reminded me of the 1968 demonstration and also the Rodney King demonstration. The video where you actually saw a man die in front of you was tragedy.
Yes,
and
sir.
Emotionally, it took a toll on him because I hadn't seen something like that since the Vietnam era or the Vietnam War.
Sure.
Literally see somebody die. And the powerful part when he asked for his mother.
Yes.
And you know, because sons and black sons and black mothers got a special relationship.
Yes, sir.
So the violence we don't condone. Unfortunately, this was like the perfect storm.
Uh-huh.
You had the COVID-19. You had the country, everybody on lockdown. You have 42 million jobs gone. And then this incident happened. And I think that was the powder cake that exploded.
Sure.
And as we looked at it, and I think Murray Sharpton said it very, very nicely, for 401 years, they had their knee on our neck. But here we have opportunity now to aggressively address some of these issues. And so I'll leave it there for a minute.
Sure. Now, we heard that, and I don't know whether you heard this as well, so I just wanted to find out if you can kind of confirm this from your sources on the ground. But as they were reporting on all the networks, that some of the looting, and I would even venture to say, a large percent of the looting was being carried out by folks that had sinister motives. Did you hear that? And if so, who did you hear those individuals were?
Well, I heard that we had people that infiltrated the movement. It came with other intentions. I'm not going to call it any group because I don't know. But normally, when you look at it, the white and the black, and people wearing all the masses and the black uniform, you really couldn't identify. But it was unnecessary to burn down buildings and things of that nature. But however, when you're going through a cause where you've been oppressed all your life, sometimes you have to get the attention of the public. I think they got the attention because they didn't, I ain't biting my tongue, when they watched that for 8 minutes and 46 seconds,
Uh-huh.
and then not one person tried to intervene to stop it. Sure. And that's the tragedy of it all.
Sure. And just when you were watching this, what was happening in your jurisdiction in Prince George's County and in the DC, Maryland area? Did you have protests in Prince George's County that you're aware of?
Basically, we had small protests in Prince George's County. Everybody was going into DC to join the protests in the district. But we're getting ready for the next phase of this. And now that Mr. Floyd have been laid to rest, we have to now work ever so hard to fight for the change that we've done. And like the NAACP had their new hashtag, we're done dying. And what the city man, we have to work very extra hard now to lobby our legislators to change the laws at the local level. And it's going to cause to get the community involved. But we have to reach out and reach the least among us. I say sometimes people have forgotten about the least among us. And we got to really get them involved in order to impact it. You can't talk to somebody that's a middle class person and try to get them to understand what the poor folks is going to when you don't even talk to them. Mm-hmm. Talk about their mental health issues. Talk about how they can't get that. One of the topics that we had with CB, if you don't have go get a test, or you don't have a primary care doctor to go to, how can you get a test to get a referral? That to me, that was insane. You want me to get a test, but I don't have a doctor that will give me a referral to go get the test.
Gotcha.
So we look at that and worked on that. The homeless population, we're dealing with that to make sure that they get the kind of things that they need. But as we reset, and I think all of us have to reset and work closer together. I've seen families, what was so fascinating about that, I've seen families become closer together. I have 5 sons, and my son been calling me just about every day now.
Sure.
And I'm going, well, what did I do?
Yeah. So
get this kind of recognition.
Certainly. Well, now when we get back into the whole protesting thing, what is well, let me ask this question first. As you know, you heard the concerns expressed in a variety of ways about the concerns of not only George Floyd, but of Eric Garner, the young lady in Louisville, Kentucky, case after case after case. And in your opinion, President Ross, do you think racism exists in the law enforcement agencies in the United States?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Right here in Prince William County right now, we have 123 cases at the DOJ ready to try to satisfy. I looked at we had an incident of a Hispanic guy and a police officer was working security at a liquor store. Uh-huh. And the guy said, I'm going in. He said, you ain't going in. And they found out he cold cocked him, knocked him out cold. He looked at him, went and stood back at the door, didn't even assist him. I looked at, in our case, William Green. William Green was in a police car here in the county, handcuffed. Police officer shot him, killed him.
In the front seat.
Sit in the car, sit in the front seat.
Mm-hmm.
Now, luckily, he got charged. Then we had the case of Mr. Shane, Leonard Shane, up in Hyattsville. He has some mental health issue. They used a flash grenade. He moved towards him, fired 40 shots at him, killed him dead. And that is excessive force. So we have to talk about, now what's some of that racism? Part of the cases that they have at the DOJ, we have pictures that they put up in lockers. And one time when I went over to the academy, I was invited over to the academy to give a speech, and I finished my program. And I'm walking down the old academy over on Forbes Boulevard. And I walked to the back of the academy. I looked right, and it was all white officers. I looked left, it was all the black officers. And I went down the hall, and then the one lieutenant looked at me. She said, "Oh, did you notice?" I said, "How could you miss it?"
Well,
there is a problem.
So, well, I'm glad that you touched on that. So I want to hear your response to a couple of things. Number one, when the incidents occurred in Prince George's County, was there public outcry or was there no public concern? What kind of feedback did you get from the public in your situation? Then we're going to talk globally.
We had 3 incidents that happened within a night from September 2019 until April of this year. We had 3 major incidents: the Shane case, the Devontae Blake, who was paralyzed from the waist down, and the William Green case. And then we had the one with the Spanish guy getting knocked out. That's 4. Then we just had another one this month where the police officer was kicking him. And in Prince George's County, there has not been an outcry from the citizens. It's like it's normal. And we